إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما ثم أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار ثم أما بعد. We begin firstly and foremostly by praising Allah the Almighty with praises and exaltations that indeed only He is worthy of. And we begin by sending His peace and His blessings upon the last messenger, Muhammad bin Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa sallam. Then inshallah ta'ala, the topic which has been given to me is the topic of terrorism. And after thinking about the numerous ways that we can deal with this topic, and the number of ways that we may have already have dealt with the topic, it became a bit burdensome to figure out what would be the best way to deal with it. But I thought that since we have never begun with defining in the West, not what us as Muslims, but what does the West, how do they define terrorism? Their intellectuals, their professors, their teachers, what do they say terrorism is? So I looked up the word terrorism, and I looked it up in what is known as the Oxford English Dictionary, of which you find usually in bookstores. You may find a smaller version of it. If you go to any bookstore and you buy the Oxford English Dictionary, it is a very small version of the original. And the original is a voluminous work. And it deals with every word from its origin. Throughout the centuries, how has the word been used? In what manner has the word been used? So it is a voluminous book. So I looked it up, hoping and thinking that when I see this word terrorism in this Western dictionary, I would see next to it movements like Al-Qaeda, Hamas, and all of these other movements you have throughout the world. But amazingly, the word terrorism itself, which the dictionary gave two meanings. The first meaning was a system of terror. A system of terror. The second meaning was a policy intended to strike with terror those against whom it is adopted. The employment of methods of intimidation, the fact of terrorizing, or condition of being terrorized. And the first explanation, or the first definition, was government by intimidation, ruling by intimidation, as directed and carried out by the party in power So this is the meaning that they give. Surprisingly, their meaning, unlike what we see in the popular media, the meaning is very wide. The meaning is very wide, and it does not limit itself to Al-Qaeda. It does not limit itself to the Taliban. It does not limit itself to Al-Hamas. It doesn't limit itself to these groups. The meaning of it is very wide. So much so that the first place that this word terrorism was used for was for the government during the French Revolution. This is back in the 18th century. Now, for those who have studied the French Revolution, especially in the West, it is applauded. The French Revolution is applauded today. If you go to the Western school system and read what they have to say about the French Revolution, it is applauded as one of the greatest intellectual revolutions that the past couple of centuries has ever witnessed. A revolution based upon intellect, rationality. Yet, the people of that time referred to it as what? As terrorism. So in 1795 it was written regarding the history of that area, Afwan, in 1817, by Lady Morgan in her book France. She wrote, he was obliged to remain abroad during the whole reign of terrorism. Yani many of their politicians, they had to leave the country. During the reign of the Jacobins, they had to leave the country. Why? What were the Jacobins known to do? Beheadings, killings. So this act was defined as an act of terrorism. Terrorism is not something which was all of a sudden popped into the dictionary in 1991 or whenever the first World Trade bombing took place. It didn't come into existence in 2001. The first recorded use of the word terrorism is regarding a movement which is applauded by the West, not by us, by the West. It is applauded to be one of the greatest democratic, intellectual movements and revolutions ever witnessed. This is the first time the word terrorism is used. You understand through this, ya ikhwan wa akhawat, that keeping people in control through terror, any means of keeping people in control through terror, becomes an act of terrorism through the meaning that they're giving. Through the meaning that they're giving, any means of controlling the people through terror, through fear, is an act of terrorism.